Greetings everyone, Frogman here, and today I have a little scanner experiment. I had a restoration post the other day in which I had an old photo that had a pattern on it and I wasn't quite sure how to get rid of it. And it turns out there was a special filter called an FFT Denoise filter in an Affinity Photo that was able to take care of the pattern. However, while I was searching for that solution, I learned that if you have the original physical photograph, you can scan it right side up and then scan it upside down and then combine it later in Photoshop, and that will also eliminate the pattern, kind of like noise canceling headphones. I wanted to test that. I wanted to make sure it was true. I wanted to see how well it worked. I wanted to see how it compared to the FFT Denoise filter. And I also wanted to see how it compared to the scanner's function. It's anti-moire function that gets rid of patterns. On my scanner, which is a Canon, it's the D-screen mode. I want to see how that compares to all the other methods I'm going to try. So I'm going to walk you through the process of how to prepare the photos and get them aligned so that you can actually do this technique. First thing I did was I put the photo onto a metal plate, and when I scanned it, I had a heavy weight behind it, and what I was trying to do is get the photo as flat as possible. This old photo is a little bendy and curled in the edges, and the other thing I tried to do is I tried to make sure it scanned as straight as possible, but I kind of failed on that front, because if it's not straight, the light is going to hit the little textures at different angles, and you're not going to get as good of elimination. So you want to try and scan it as straight as possible. So let's look at what I did. I decided to go a little above and beyond. So I did right side up, upside down, and I also did 90 degrees and 270 degrees. And I wanted to see if, scanning sideways worked better, if scanning up and down worked better, or if you combined them all, if that worked better. Just do all the tests to see, what worked best. So these are my parents, and they're out on a date or something, I'm not sure. But if you look closely at the photo, there is the dreaded pattern. And we have to figure out how to get rid of that. And so first thing we have to do is get everything rotated the proper way. So that's just pretty easy. Just go to Edit, Transform, and on this one we need to rotate 180. And this one we need to rotate counterclockwise. And this one we need to rotate clockwise. Alright. So once we got them all right side up, the next thing we need to do is make sure that they are perfectly straight, and they all need to be straight to each other. So what you want to do is pick one side of the photograph to straighten them all to, and you get your ruler tool, and you need to zoom way in, and I'm going to go to the right side of this photograph, and I'm going to get my ruler tool, and this needs to be pixel perfect. I'm going to measure up the entire side of the photo. The longer you measure, the better the chances are you're going to get a straight line. And then you just want to double check that that is to the pixel aligned with the side of the photo. And it's really important. You just double check to make sure that it is. And it looks like I'm good here. Like if I bring this out, you can see, yeah, right there. All right, so once you've got a straight line drawn on the side of your photo, you can just, in the ruler tool, you can just hit the straighten layer. And that will make sure that it's perfectly straight up and down. And then you'll want to do that for all the photos. And then once you have them all straight, then you need to do alignment. And Photoshop does have an automatic alignment feature, but this is so granular that you need to do it manually, or else you're going to have problems later on. Like I said, this needs to be perfect to the pixel or the effect won't work. So what I'm going to do is I've got my base layer here, and then the layer above that, I'm going to reduce the opacity to 50%. And then I'm going to get my move tool, and I'm going to just get it close and try to get the eyes to line up. And then I'm going to go to Image, Adjustments, and Invert. And then I'm going to use my arrow keys on my keyboard, and I'm going to move the top layer with my arrow keys, just left and right, up and down. And what I want is for his face to disappear. And when you feel like you can't see any detail anymore, that's when you've got it pretty much perfectly aligned. Now, when scanning this, apparently there was some three-dimensionality that did not scan perfectly flat. And so I am using his face as my focal point for alignment. But if you look like over at my mom's face, you can still see some of the details in her, and then you can see the details in his jacket. And that just means that like there's just a little bit of a skew or a distortion or something the way it scans. So my dad's face is in the center of the photo, and it's best to align the faces because those are the most important things. So I am using his face as the focal point, and since it's in the center of the photo, hopefully that means it will do a compromise alignment on the stuff outside this area. And then once you got it aligned, go ahead and, oops, spooky dad, go ahead and remove, put the opacity back to 100, and then uninvert it, and then test your alignment, turn the layer on and off, and if it looks like he's perfectly in line, you're all good to go. And do that with all the layers. And then here is the fun part. So we've got everything perfectly aligned to the pixel. I've got my sideways layer, the 90 and the 270, and I got my up and down layer, the 0 and the 180. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure the bottommost layer is set to normal, and then the companion layers, so the 90 and the 270, they go together because they were the sideways scans. And I'm going to set the 90, I'm going to set this to darken. And that's how you combine them. And if you turn it off and on, you can see that pattern is nearly gone. It's not perfect. You can still see it, especially in the dark areas, but like on the faces and stuff like that, Like, that is pretty significant reduction. And if you zoom out to 100, you can't even really see it at all except in the really dark areas. And then you zoom out, like, look at the whole picture, and you can't see it at all. So that was the sideways scans. And we're going to test the up and down scans to see if they take to the effect any better. So again, I'm going to choose the 180 and the 0, and I'm going to put the 0 to the darken blend mode, and there you go again. Gets rid of the pattern. And one other thought I had was, what if I combine the sideways scans and the up and down scans? Will I get even more reduction in the pattern? And so here is the combined sideways and the combined up and down. And I'm going to go ahead and do it again. I'm going to set the top one to darken. And then we'll get in a little closer, and you can see, especially on the faces, it does remove a little more of that pattern. I noticed, especially like on my mom's face, that pattern just gets even less pronounced. And like I said, especially when you're zoom out to normal viewing, the pattern's essentially gone. You can't even see it, not even in the dark parts. So let's look at our progress and do some comparisons. So this was the 270 degree scan. This was the 90 degree scan. And you can see like the highlights are on the right here. And then the 270, they're on the left. And then on the 180, they're at the top. And on the 0, the original scan, they're at the bottom. So you can see the light was filling those areas in all those different directions. And so we basically canceled everything out. And then the next thing you're going to see is the D-screen mode on the scanner, which is supposed to be its way of removing the pattern. And it just kind of blurred everything. It did not really do much of anything. Yeah, so that's kind of useless. And then let's see our result. Combining both sideways and up and down. This is our result compared to the original upright scan. And then the final thing to look at is the filter in Affinity Photo. How does that compare to scanning upside down and doing all of this extra work, aligning perfectly? So drum roll, and boom, it's much better. The filter does a great job. Like, it was never there, like even in the dark parts. I mean, compared to all of that scanning and upside down, and there's just no reason to do all that work if you have this filter. It just completely got rid of everything. So in conclusion, if you have the filter, if you can install the action in Photoshop or use Affinity Photo, that seems to be the best way to get rid of these kinds of patterns. But the scanning upside down, like if you do it perfect, And I think if I scanned it perfectly, if I made some kind of alignment jig, I could even get even better results. But the FFT denoise is definitely the way to go if you can. And little bonus tutorial: if you want to know how to fix these old photos that have started to turn red, just go to Image, Adjustments, and Levels, and then you want to change the RGB, the red, the green, and the blue. So we'll go to the red, and these little hills in the histogram here, that's the data in the photo. And as you can see, there's no data in this section here, and there's no data in this section here. So what we can do is we can just drag these black and white sliders to where the data begins in the photo, where it starts going up. And so we'll pull this over. Now there's a little tiny bit of data in the highlights here, but that's such a small amount that it's probably not worth keeping. So you can move your slider to where it really starts to turn into a little hill there. So we got the red down, and then we got to do the green, and then finally we do the blue, and then we can preview before and after. And that's how you fix faded photos. Pretty much any photo that is faded, like yellow or red, this works 95% of the time, and makes your photos look brand new again. Okay, so that's the experiment. I hope you found this interesting, and I hope you all have a great day.